Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Conquer the Clutter for the what is it? The 22nd of April. Wow. Um, Never have I been as happy to see spring arrive, I'll tell you. Um, and I'm a little bit jealous of all of those people who have fabulous weather. Um, so, we are talking about loneliness. And I want to do a little bit of a recap. I'm just going to whistle stop through it so that I can bring everybody up to speed for the material that is designed for today because I had to cancel last week due to an overlap of an unavoidable um, overlap of appointments and commitments. So, um, welcome everyone. Thank you for showing up. And I have a little bit of news as well. I have been selected to be a nominee for a magazine in the States that is calling me a visionary in mental health care. So I don't know how much of a visionary I am, but it's nice to kind of get an atta girl once in a while. So I thought I would just let you know. And yeah, so little chuffed. Okay, so let's get started. So what is loneliness? It isn't a deficit, it isn't a failure, but it is a vulnerability. All right. And what it does, the hormonal, the mental health, the messaging internally, all right, affects our system. And what it's actually designed to do, those feelings, those hormonal responses, is to prompt us to restabilize. It's sort of like an alert that tells you all is not well and we need to adjust before we start to pay a bigger hidden price. Now, it's also at the same time doing that in order, it's a positive, it feels negative, all right? It's not a happy experience, but it is designed to help us protect ourselves from being disoriented by the causes of that feeling of aloneness, separateness, not being enough. So last, no, it wasn't last week, 2 weeks ago, remember the masks that we talked about? I'm going to do a whistle stop through them because we just really did a highlight and they are the foundation pieces for the material today. So bear with me if you've got a wonderful memory and it all is coming back to you and it feels repetitious. We're going to do a review. All right, so these strategies, these masks that are the most common that every one of us is susceptible to almost involuntarily choosing, all right, over enough time, these strategies are meant to help us to cope. But unfortunately, even the best coping mechanism can take a little twist. And we can habituate going to it because it does give us relief. All right. It does give us some kind of harbor in the wind of life. If we go there often enough, we can do something that they're not designed for, and that is to habituate. And then ultimately, if we get really good at flipping into these masks, we just wear them nonstop. And then we get stuck, right? So, short recap. Remember the mask of busyness, right? Staying busy is not something that you are ever probably going to be unrewarded for. They are a socially very acceptable way um, to conduct your life. It falsely says something about you, all right? And what what does that actually then do? Well, in the short run, it adapts to save you from a situation that, when you use the expression habitually, sorry, I'm just overbooked and I can't make that. That's a way to avoid something that is a negative or not preferable for you to devote your time and energy to. However, if you do it too often, all right, because you really appreciate the feeling of the relief, it can also help you, it can also prompt you, not just help you, to avoid emotional risk. If you have to be busy that much, there's a problem, and the problem needs dealing with. Whether it's an internal problem of your own, whether it's a situation in your life, or whether it's a person in your life. All right. At a certain point, it's not meant to be a habit. It's not meant to be the go-to. So really keep an eye on that, because we can easily fill every working hour of our life. We can have jobs, errands, charities, streaming on social media. Eh, too much of that really is not good, because a lot of that, there's no element of truth to. All right. It's about drama. You can listen to too many podcasts, not true. But anything you overdo, all right, the unrelenting pressure to be productive, 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 all right, everything is okay in balance, but anything can become moved into the problematic zone. So when we're busy, 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 we are also not as accessible or as aware um, to our feelings. So it can help us stay out of touch with our very own feelings, and especially the ones we don't want. But those are the indicators, if they keep popping up, that something needs work, something needs attention, something needs adjustment. So why does this mask happen? Usually it happens because being busy gives us a sense of being controlled or being in control when things feel on the verge of going out of control. All right. But if we're always too busy, we don't have to face, we're hiding in some way from our own vulnerability. And the point of that vulnerability is to fuel us, to indicate to us that it's time to face the fact that we are essentially something. All right. And one of those things, the thing we're talking about today and for a few weeks, is being lonely or feeling. You can be surrounded by people, you can be surrounded by anything and still feel lonely. Lonely is that internal assessment of how we're doing and how we measure up. Okay. It can also be a fear, the fear of not being good enough, or a fear of being rejected for some reason. So, what does this always busy mask, what potentially can it end up costing us? So, if you have any inkling that this is sort of showing up, that's an indicator to watch out and make a different adjustment. What does it cost us? Chronic busyness leaves us the inadequate amount of time in our life to develop and maintain real, true, authentic, fulfilling, or more fulfilling, more satisfying connections. All right. with even the most important people in our life, there is being busy chronically is an easy thing, an easy hiding place, all right, for people to go to, for us to go to. And we can get so good at it that we call being unavailable for the others in our life, the important people, being efficient or being effective or, being productive, right? So it also means that probably at some point we're going to be losing out on social experiences, right? And it can even create in us the illusion that we are really productive and we are actually having a full, meaningful life. So, if that's true, why does that little echo inside, you know, you're not enough? You're not good enough. You could be better. Yeah, but that yeah, but that sometimes pops up. All right, that means that we are probably becoming dependent on that mask, using it as an adjustment, a way to adjust, a way to manage is one thing. When we choose it, when it chooses us and sticks to us, it's going to leave us in a state of emotional exhaustion. All right, especially when the rush of whatever it is that we have on our agenda starts to wear off. So basically, we end up in a bit of an emotional and physical heap with no energy to do the thing that is uppermost in our physical and mental health needs, and that is to get our needs met. All right. So, not a good thing. Keep an eye on it. All right. And the more it feels like you're a hero, okay, the more it feels like a good, safe place to be, probably the more you need to do an inventory of how balanced life is. All right. So, second mask is the mask of withdrawal. All right. And that is when we use the habit of retreating, all right, to stop us, slow us down, or over inventory the people that we reach out to or that we accept to reach out from. All right. Way too frequently, we don't make plans that could be gratifying or positive for us, or we cancel plans. All right. And what that does is that causes us to isolate ourselves more and more. We are social beings at a certain point, and that point is different for each one of us. Right? The more we isolate, the more we are not leaving ourselves available and ready for health, mental and physical, emotional health. And as a result, all right, we start to in that withdrawal, we think that we are avoiding potential setbacks or potential, let's just put it in one pile, potential pain of some kind. Right? Maybe it's disappointment or a fear of rejection or a fear of not being able to resolve something that needs resolving so that life can carry on at a better pace and more stably. Okay. So, why does withdrawal so easily, because it's an easy one to choose, all right? All you have to do is habitually say, no, I can't. Why does withdrawal become one of our best options? Well, it's an easy place to go when we feel hurt by the past, or we feel a lack of synchronicity with someone or something. And that then internally gets interpreted, kind of translated into we don't fit. We in some way are being rejected. All right. Only we tell ourselves we're rejecting it. Or maybe we feel like we're being left out a bit, maybe not taken seriously or dismissed. Uh, and how does that happen? It happens every day to people, particularly thanks to social media, by being ghosted. There's nothing to make a person feel more at sea than the confusion of being ghosted. All right. Abandoned. We had our hopes in something and it didn't come to pass. We were counting on it or misunderstood. We said or did something or tried to do something and it ran amok and got misinterpreted and we got misunderstood. All right. So what happens when any of those things happen to us? Every one of us, okay, there doesn't have to be something wrong with you, is that our nervous system starts to learn to protect us. And how does it do that? By keeping us out of the game of life. We make excuses in our head, or we have experiences that are not compatible with joining in things. And what does that cost us when we don't try enough of the time, or we don't feel capable of overcoming those hurdles? We all have them. I have them. You have them. All right. What does it cost us? The more we isolate ourselves, the more we convince ourselves in some unhealthy way when it gets to be a habit that we feel a little safer. Okay. That's only going to last in the short run because that feeling a little safer, right, will often, if we continue to withdraw, will continue to isolate us. And the more we get isolated, the lonelier at some vague level in the beginning. All right. And then we personalize it. Then it's not about, well, I wasn't available. Well, why aren't they calling? Well, when I call, they don't immediately reach out. And then we start to personalize it. Okay. So the very thing we're trying to avoid, which is unhealthy feelings about ourselves or our ability to resolve just the normal day-to-day glitches with people in our life, those, if we don't face them, if we don't handle them when they're small, which means not withdrawing habitually, all right? And we can withdraw too in many, many ways. So here's another way we can withdraw. When we get frustrated habitually, or we get not our needs, our social, emotional needs, our needs for companionship, just even another human, evidence in fact. How many people here belong to a clutter buddy group? Okay. Would you be doing as well if you were isolated alone? No, that's why you wanted to be part of a clutter buddy group. And by the way, the clutter buddy group that I'm going to organize is going to happen in late summer, early fall. Okay. So anybody who there isn't a space for on a clutter buddy group, know that that is coming. So what happens when your needs aren't met? Okay. You would have to be somebody way better than me and way better than most of us here if you don't start to get a little cranky. You don't start to get a little chronically irritable. All right. Now, surprisingly, and I know it's a surprise, loneliness, that being alone, that being not part of, all right, even when you tell yourself you're choosing it, when it gets out of proportion, out of balance, It's not actually helping you meet your needs. In fact, it's in excess. It can make us start to feel a little snarky, all right? In our head. This is self-talk, internal self-talk. And when we do it chronically, it can help us start to try to protect ourselves, but not in a healthy way, by being critical. Oh, well, here's what's wrong with that person. Oh, well, here's what's wrong. And we're always going to the negative, right? Or just impatient. Somebody's talking or they're communicating something or whatever, or they're not on time, but it's not a habit. We get impatient. All right, we're like on a short leash here. And we feel it. We're the ones paying the price for it. And we're wearing that mask of irritability, especially with people closest to us. Why? Because the people closest to us, even if we don't say anything, even if it's just in our human reactions, in how we're willing to extend ourselves a little to close the gap of whatever it is that needs closure. All right. They're the people we spend most of our time with. So, of course, they're going to be the most likely target. Why does it happen? Why irritability? Because when our emotional connection that is supposed to create that inner kind of hum in us, all right, when it becomes a discomfort instead of a comfort, that causes, it's an overgeneralized word, but it causes a type of pain, a type of ache in us. All right. We are social beings. Now, some of us are more naturally social than others, but as a human being, we are social beings. And aloneness, loneliness is not good for our system. And when we have an overabundance of loneliness that's not chosen incident by incident, event by event, it's a go-to method of dealing with things or avoiding things. You know, if you leave vinegar long enough, it's going to turn into kind of like an acidy type of thing. Well, that's what happens within us. It starts to become anger. Or if we don't entitle ourselves to anger, all right, we can always opt for frustration. And developing a habit of that anger or frustration, we're generally not applying that to ourselves because we're already in pain. We're the ones feeling the void, feeling the lack, right? It's really easy to start pointing the finger out and even without meaning to habitually start to blame others for perceived shortcomings of theirs. Every little thing they do then becomes an aggravation. All right. And what's that going to do? It gives us a feeling of not healthy, but justification. All right. Now, it's when we habituate this. It's not when it's deserved, just to draw that discrepancy, okay? What's it going to do when we go there habitually? That irritant. Well, what it's going to do is it's going to drive people away. And who's going to get driven away first? The people we spend most of our time with. And then we really are alone, right? And then we really are lonely. Because if you are in that state or you encounter it, I'm going to tell you something my mother told me because I guess I was irritable at some point in time. And she said, Elaine, even a stop clock is right twice a day. All right. The other guy can't be wrong, in the wrong all the time. So before you decide it's the other guy, look at the piece you're playing first. You're not necessarily causing the problem, but what are you contributing to it? Because to have a disagreement, to have a conflict, it takes two parties. You can't have a conflict. All right. You can't have a conflict all on your own. So, what does it cost us? All right. Chronic, automatic frustration, irritability, that turns off the very relationships that we want and that we need the most because, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that hormone, it causes a hormonal bath in us that almost makes it involuntary at a certain point. All right, when we overdo it. And who's going to be the brunt of it? Generally, it's going to be the people we count on the most, the people we spend the most time and energy on. Those are the people who are the main players in our life. All right. Irritability, for sure, creates distance between people. It does not create a meeting of the minds, a resolution, which is really what we need if we've got a discrepancy with someone. All right. It sure as shooting is not going to cause closeness, which isn't that what we really want? We want a meeting of the minds. You can't have a meeting of the minds, that's with an S, all right, if it's always got to be your opinion, our opinion. Okay. And so, which do we need more? Do we need things to be the way we want and think they should be? Do we need them to be the way we feel we're right every time? No, no, not when you're in partnership with somebody or something. All right. Because it's in that sharing that sustains us more successfully. Now, using a mask is an adaptive, it's not a bad thing. It's not a fault. It's not a deficit. All right. It only becomes a deficit when you go to the mask and you stay there, or when you go to it habitually. You don't give yourself the chance to have that resolution, that understanding, to build reciprocity with yourself first, okay? All parts of yourself, or as many that will cooperate, and the other people in your life. A mask is just a method to help us adapt to something. But once we're aware that these different masks exist, period, but certainly they exist even if they're in hiding, all right? Even if we haven't identified them as masks, we think they're moods. They exist in us. Once we accept that and we become aware and responsible for choosing them or not, we can then gradually appreciate, as we feel able to stop in the moment and maybe give ourselves a chance to choose a different alternative than the loneliness, what is going to create the loneliness and feed it. All right. And also, it gives us a chance to catch our breath when we feel overwhelmed or we feel something sufficiently negative or uncertain. All right. Gives us a chance to kind of figure out, what do we need to do to cope, and cope first. All right. And then manage the situation that is tempting us to use this mask. Wouldn't it be great to give yourself a timeout where you could actually investigate, what are your coping mechanisms? What are your coping options? And how many of those might actually lead to a situation that puts you where you want to be, not leaves you where you don't want to be. And we're all capable of that if we give ourselves permission. We are always entitled to the time we need to put the pieces together. We don't have to go into hiding, and we don't have to go into war mode or conflict mode. All right. And when we insist on the time we need and enough space temporarily to put the pieces in place, all right, what that really will do is that will show us new paths to being more authentic and to being able to always find our authenticity. I can't pronounce the word, our authenticity, who we really are in that moment and that situation, who we're capable of being. That when we look back on it, we're happy. We're happy we made that choice. All right. It also, if we insist on having the time to adjust, cope, and make a path, that also will allow us to connect to those that we really want to be with, we really want to connect with, and who are open honestly to connect with us honestly. All right. So let's identify the personal patterns of disconnection. They're made up of specific patterns, behavioral patterns, personal beliefs, and personal habits, the things we've habituated, all right, that internally, inside us, quietly, secretly, privately, keep us more comfortable. And sometimes remaining separate, even when we actually want closeness, all right, it's like a pattern of having to convince ourselves there's nothing wrong, it should be fine. All right. So we tell ourselves a story, and this often comes with people who've gotten really good at these masks, all right, with high functioning loneliness. So the story that we're telling ourselves is nothing wrong, should be fine. Right? That's on the outside. We look successful. And when we're convincing ourselves temporarily, nothing to worry about. All right. But we're going to find out in very short order whether that's accurate. And if we do find out that we're telling ourselves that story, but actually more times than not, it's not actually, it was avoidance. All right. Know that you can do better. There are better options than just on the outside looking and feeling successful, right? Looking and feeling like, we have everything we're supposed to have. And clearly that means that I'm enough, right? I'm enough in that, look at my job, look at my family, look at my house, look at my car. Look at the holidays we take to exciting places. Look at my wardrobe. Okay. Look at me with all of those accoutrements. They're just accoutrements. Underneath all of that is the raw truth, the raw us. Okay. And don't settle for indicators that we lack nothing. And because we lack nothing, that means that there's nothing lacking in us. We're always capable of moving forward in a direction that is healthy and gives us what we need the most. Because when we are wearing our success, when we are using outside tangible, look at this, don't look at me, look at this shows that I am, all right, in that shadow of that thing behind it, see if there is any sadness, all right, in assuring oneself, well, I'm better off than, I mean, there are lots of other people. Okay. They could have, other people have it worse than I do. All right. So that means something about me. You, if you're, and we all go through this in different times of our life. Okay. If you're not at peace inside, if you're not comfortable enough, all right, using outside indicators is a little like Halloween. All right. And you put on a costume. Well, no matter what costume you put on, it doesn't make you that. Right. Inside is really the core of who you are. All right. Gratitude is a good thing. All right. But when you have to say should with it, I should be grateful, that's not the same thing. Should is a shovel that just keeps digging the hole deeper and deeper. All right. So you either are honestly grateful, you in a peaceful kind of way, and this isn't going to be every moment of our life, people. All right. It isn't. But it's what we search for when we're in trouble and we're off track. We search for it. Okay. So if you have to say, I should be grateful, there's a little thing that needs healing. It needs something. Ask yourself, okay, should be grateful. So why am I not grateful? And search that down, because what do I need? Where is it? How do I get enough of it to make enough of a difference? All right. How many people here back away and deprive themselves of legitimate needs by saying, I don't want to be a burden? Is I don't want to be a burden truthful? Or is I don't want to be a burden, I don't want to have to ask for what I need. I don't want to have to accept help. Okay. And this echoing internal messaging that we engage in, these little places we go to hide, these little, yeah, sort of pull off the road of life stops, they minimize our true legitimate needs, and may internally disqualify us from asking for the support that we truthfully need. Sometimes we do need help. We do need support. And sometimes we need to choose alone. But if you're not choosing alone temporarily as a way to kind of gather your thoughts, deeply go inside to see authentically what is it that I need. All right. You're talking yourself into it by talking yourself out of the search for what you need. Not a good thing. All right. So there's another pattern that people engage in, and that is the all or nothing mindset. All right. Are you someone who thinks that if you're not in a satisfying, committed relationship, or your kids don't call you every day, all right, that somehow your relationship and you don't qualify as enough? Right. And if you don't have a dedicated group of close friends, all right, always ready to do interesting and fun things, that somehow that is a measure of inadequacy in some way. That kind of thinking makes a person dismiss the causal connection that could actually bring or become something meaningful. By dedicating the time and effort to develop those things over time, whether it's a family, whether it's engagement with loved ones, whether it's whatever it is, all right? When you do that, you make it about being dismissed or inadequate, all right? The time and effort that it would take to improve those things would be stepping forward. The sitting and habitually, chronically feeling badly about yourself, or somehow it's inadequate or it's broken or it's something. All right. So, when and if that does happen, how many people here, all right, go to a place where they say, yeah, but you know what? They don't really care. They'd be doing this. They don't really care. And so rather than be the one that reaches out, you hesitate to reach out. You pull back and you feel badly. You assume that your family, your children, your friends, oh, they must be too busy, or they don't really care. They don't really care to hear from me. They don't, they're friends, but you can't, I mean, they don't really care about me. All right. So you wait. All right. Hoping that they will prove you wrong and they will actually reach out first. What's the magic in first? All right. What's the magic in first? There is no magic in first. Could it be that you lack the right to be spontaneous on your needs? If you're the one feeling it, you're the one who needs to reach out first. Because reaching out might prompt them to do the same thing, to reach back. People have their reasons, and almost never is it about us. But if we lack taking responsibility for initiating the things we want or putting out the feelers honestly, okay, so that it can be observed, it's observable. All right. Are we creating the impression that we don't really care? Because that swing goes both ways, right? Now, there's another twist that this can take, and that's the avoidance loop. So this is when we tell ourselves, you know, I don't feel like it right now, but it's habitually we don't feel like it. And okay, well, I know that, you know what, for there to be a connection, both hands have to reach out. I have to reach out, they have to reach back. I'll reach out when I feel better, but it's a chronic thing. It's not a time. It's not an event. All right. But because you're not connecting, you don't actually feel better. Right. And the longer you wait, the harder it gets. This is one of the most common patterns which lead to loneliness. Right. Fortunately, with a little bit of take responsibility for what you want, to the best of your ability, make it happen. Or at least hand out the initiative. Take the initiative. Okay. Okay. Because this is the most changeable behavior. So next week, remember all of this, because what we're going to start to do is we're going to start to have a look at our own loneliness self-inventory. And that is thanks. I want to give full credit to Dr. Gray's book on loneliness. Okay. And so right now we've got about another 10 minutes. I'm going to turn off the recording and let's talk about this for 10 minutes.
Can you do it? Yes, you can.